We got him. Senator Chris Van Hollen, who's been in El Salvador looking for justice for Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia, has finally found and sat down to see how he's doing. Look, I said my main goal of this trip was to meet with Kilmar. Tonight, I had the chance. I have called his wife, Jennifer, to pass along the message of love. I look forward to providing a full update upon my return. Now, the question is, what the fuck is going on in that motherfucking prison? I want the tell-all. I want the full update. But let me also say this. This is fucking winning. I want people to give credit where the credit is due. This is a Democrat senator who took his ass over there to El Salvador to make sure that he found and got justice for this man. Because if it happened to me and my senator's not fighting for me in this way, this is what an elected representative does. I'm glad that I was wrong. I'm glad that he proved a lot of people wrong and that he was alive. Because if this man had died in their custody through all of this deportation bullshit, we would have been in a different motherfucking place. But the fact that we got him, I appreciate that.
I want to tell you why the case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia should matter to you. This is an individual who came to the United States over 10 years ago. He was given protected status by a court, meaning that he could not be removed back to El Salvador because his life would be in jeopardy if he left. He's got American citizen children, American citizen wife. He's got a job here. Donald Trump ignored that court order and deported him. It was such a brazen violation of the law that the Supreme Court weighed in. In a rare 9-0 ruling, the Supreme Court said that Trump had to bring this individual back to the United States, but he still didn't do it. This is the constitutional crisis. It's the confrontation between the court saying that the president has to bring Abrego Garcia back home and Trump refusing to do it. And why should this matter to you? Because if the president has the power to jail, imprison, to deport anyone, even if they have a legal right to be here as a citizen or through protected status given by the courts, then none of us are safe. Today, it's this El Salvadorian immigrant, but tomorrow it could be you or me.
They deported him by mistake, so they say, and now they're painting him as a monster. You see how dangerous that is? This is not just about Kilmar. This is a warning to all of us. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a 29-year-old man who lived in the US since he was 16, he built life in America, he was working legally, he followed the law, he had judges' protection, yet in March this year, he was snatched up by ICE agents and thrown onto a plane back to El Salvador illegally. And now, the same government that admitted it was a mistake is trying to justify it by saying he's a gang member. After courts demanded his return, they are suddenly digging up evidence from years ago based on how he was dressed. Come on now, that is not justice. That is character assassination. Let's be real here. If this could happen to someone with legal protections, it can happen to anyone, and that is terrifying. The crazy part, the US Supreme Court ordered his return. They said clearly, bring this man back. But what did the government say? They threw their hands up and said, we can't. He's in a Salvadoran prison now, not our problem. Excuse me? He wouldn't be in that prison if you hadn't deported him in the first place.
This may be proof of life, but pay close attention to the red flags in these pictures. Kilmar is wearing brand new shoes. He was not deported with any of his belongings, and he was not deported in brand new shoes. They gave him new shoes just for this meeting. They made sure he's wearing a hat in this meeting. And check the fresh lineup. We know that the prisoners in Secot are shaved bald and removed of all facial hair. Also, look at his eyes. And who the fuck is this guy? He's in every picture and he did not take his eyes off of Kilmar. I'm assuming he's the one that took these pictures. It would almost appear that he chaperoned the entire meeting to not allow Kilmar to sit alone with the senator. Also, notice how the restaurant is completely empty. The other red flag is that just hours prior today, the senator posted this video where he was denied access into the prison.
These soldiers were ordered to prevent us from going any farther from this spot. I understand we're about 3 kilometers now.
So the senator and the attorney for Kilmar and his wife pull up to the prison. They're denied access, which, mind you, just 2 days ago, Republican senators were allowed in for selfies and the full tour. And then 2 hours later is when the senator drops that he was miraculously able to meet with him in this awkward setting. This was the post a couple hours after he was denied access into the prison. One thing we know about Bukele is He controls everything that the media sees when it comes to Secot. He's only allowed certain people into the prison, and everything is set up for propaganda. Although this meeting does prove that this man is alive, I personally believe that this man is only alive because of the attention that the media has placed on him. The condition that he was in this interview is a huge red flag. One, why was he not interviewed at the prison? Why was he giving fresh new clothes, brand new shoes? It's all for optics. Bukele is all about optics. If you know him and now I haven't even gotten to the worst part. He is actively trolling the senator on Twitter. This is retweet number 1. He retweeted a post about the senator clearly supporting illegal aliens, and even retweeted a tweet that says it's time to impeach the senator. He tweets, "I love chess," and is even retweeting the posts that are feeding the narrative that Kilmar is a wife beater, an illegal alien, MS-13 gang member. He is pissed at this senator.
Kilmar had legal standing in the US. He wasn't some undocumented person hiding out. He had a case, he had a court order protecting him, but all that didn't matter because when someone in power decides you are disposable, they will find a way to throw you out regardless of the law. This isn't about paperwork. This is about power and who gets to be safe in this world. The Biden administration had stopped these types of deportations, but the new Trump administration came in like a wrecking ball and used a centuries-old law, yes, literally from 1798, to start rounding up people and deporting them under the label of foreign enemies. That is what they call Kilmar, a foreign enemy. Let's not forget, he fled El Salvador as a teenager because of the same gangs they now accuse him of being part of. He was escaping violence. His family had been extorted. His life was at risk. That is why a judge granted him protection in the first place. But they ignored all that. What they used to label him a gang member, a hoodie and a cap. I'm serious. They said his clothing, a Chicago Bulls cap and a hoodie with rolled up bills, was indicative of gang culture. And because of that, they classified him as MS-13. So now anyone wearing certain clothes is fair game. We are going back to profiling. You wear a hoodie and suddenly you're part of a gang. What kind of justice system is that? Imagine the amount of people this could affect. How many young men of color walk around wearing caps and hoodies every day? Are they also suspects now? Is that what we are doing in 2025?
If you aren't fully aware of the entire story around Kilmar Abrego Garcia, it is time to tune in, because Trump just pulled a stunt that could make this get really bad really fast. But there are still a couple of ways that this could go that could end amicably, at least for Abrego Garcia. This is a difficult topic for me because frankly it's terrifying, but also because I'm a married dad with an American family just like him. But at the same time, I'm a straight white male American citizen. If I can't speak up on behalf of him as a member of the most privileged class in this country, who will? So first, Abrego Garcia was born in El Salvador, but he came here at 15 years old in 2011. He came here because violent cartels were extorting money from his family business. But his older brother was a U.S. citizen, so he wanted to come and live with him and start a life. Because he was 15, he was not an illegal immigrant. He was a child seeking asylum. And the immigration court at the time denied his request for asylum, but also gave him legal protection from deportation due to the risk of violence if he returned home. As a young adult, Abrego Garcia married a U.S. citizen who had her own kids here. Together, they had their own son who was an American-born U.S. citizen. He was working as a sheet metal apprentice working toward his journeyman's license, but because he was Hispanic with tattoos, he couldn't last 100 days into Trump's tenure. He was driving down the street in March with his son in the car, and he was profiled, arrested, detained, and sent to Texas and deported only 3 days later without due process. Abrego Garcia has never been charged or convicted of a crime in El Salvador or the United States, and had been living here peacefully since 2011. At this point, I have to pause because I'm a dad with a 7-year-old son. Abrego Garcia should be in the midst of one of the most hilarious and enjoyable phases of fatherhood, but Trump robbed him of that. Now he's in a prison in El Salvador full of the same cartel members that he was trying to run away from in the first place. A federal judge demanded the Trump administration bring Abrego Garcia back home. Trump administration appealed that to the Supreme Court, and they ruled 9-0 against him. Even Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito voted with the majority against Trump, a ruling that Trump said he would obey. But then in the most insane White House visit by a foreign leader since at least a week ago, the authoritarian president of El Salvador comes to the White House and says no. Remember, this is a man the United States taxpayers are paying $25,000 a year. to keep Abrego Garcia in prison. We are paying them $6 million for all of the people we illegally deported there. And this guy comes and sits in the Oval Office and looks at the president, who says he's the most powerful man in the world, who says he's the greatest negotiator on the planet. And he says, I'm not sending him back. And Donald Trump, the president of the United States of America, the man who swore an oath to defend due process, the man who is the commander-in-chief of the most powerful military in the history of the world, obeys. Now keep in mind, this is a fast-moving story, and this is not going away, because Chris Van Hollen, the senator from Maryland who represents Abrego Garcia, already requested his own meeting with the president of El Salvador, and already committed to traveling to El Salvador this week to negotiate the return of Abrego Garcia, assuming Trump can't get it done himself.
A confidential informant supposedly told officers back in 2019 that Kilmar was affiliated with MS-13 and even had a nickname. But where is the evidence? He was never convicted of a crime. He had no record. He lived in the US peacefully for 13 years. This wasn't some violent criminal. This was someone working, living, and following the law. Even then, the judge saw through the accusations. That same year, he was told he couldn't be deported because his life would be in danger. The judge agreed he would face harm in El Salvador. That should have been the end of the story. But no, they detained him in March, and 3 days later, they threw him out. No time for due process, no appeal, just out. And now he's in one of the most brutal prisons in the world. A mega prison built by President Bukele of El Salvador, criticized for human rights abuses. It's overcrowded, violent, and inhumane. That is where they sent him. And now they say they can't bring him back because El Salvador won't let him go. So let me get this straight. The US government deported someone illegally, and now they're washing their hands of the consequences. If America can't take responsibility for its own illegal actions, what message does that send? And the worst part is, when asked if there was any plan to get Kilmar back, US officials said even if El Salvador did agree to release him, they would deport him again. They literally said he would be put on a plane right back out. So what's the point of court orders? What's the point of having rights or legal protections or judges if the government can just ignore all of it? And this isn't just about immigration. This is about humanity. It's about power. It's about abuse. The way the US government is handling this, it's like they're saying, we don't make mistakes, and even if we do, we'll twist the narrative to make it your fault. That is terrifying. That is abuse of power on a whole new level. When Senator Chris Van Hollen visited Kilmar in El Salvador, he confirmed the man is alive. That is good, but being alive isn't enough. This man deserves to be safe. He deserves to be home. He deserves justice. If you're wondering how this affects the rest of us, the answer is simple. If the government can do this to someone with legal protection, it can happen to anyone. Your citizenship status, your race, your clothing, your background, none of that will matter when a government decides to ignore the law. We always say it's just one person, but it never stops with one person. That is how erosion of rights begins. Quietly, gradually, through exceptions, through justifications, through silence. Right now, the media is starting to talk about this, but it's not loud enough. We need to be louder. We need to ask, why is this administration so comfortable using someone's life as a political tool? Why are they ignoring a Supreme Court order? Why are they trying to destroy this man's character instead of admitting their mistake and making it right? And what does it say when a government labels someone a threat just because it's more convenient than following the law? We should all be scared of that, because today it's Kilmar, tomorrow it could be you, or me, or someone we love. There are many people who faced injustice quietly because they didn't have media attention or a senator visiting them. Kilmar's case just happens to be public, and thank God it is, because now we can talk about it. Now we can raise our voices. Let me be clear, deportation itself is not the issue. The issue is how it was done. The issue is the why. The issue is the disregard of the law, dignity, and life. You don't deport someone protected by a court. You don't claim someone is a danger after you've already violated their rights. And you definitely don't leave them to rot in a foreign prison to save face. What kind of example is America setting here? This isn't strength. This isn't security. This is fear-mongering. This is injustice. So to anyone watching this, especially if you are an immigrant or if you care about human rights, please don't be silent. Speak up. Share Kilmar's story. Demand better. Because a country that can deport someone by mistake and then refuse to fix it, it's not a country that's protecting anyone. Anyway, let me know in the comments, guys, what are your thoughts about this story? And also, please remember to subscribe, like, and share as well. And until next time, bye-bye.